Jeff Rowe from Two Hacks Garage. Well, it's early Sunday morning. I'm back at Jimmy's. How early is it? Well, it's about 8:30. Jimmy's been up again since about 4:30. And you know what? We ended the video yesterday talking about how that clamshell 2-into-1 piece was going, where we finished off with that. Well, he got up early this morning and he started working on it and he got that taken care of. It turned out really nice. Really impressed with it. I'm glad the way it turned out. Things are still tacked into place. Like I said, you know, what we're doing now is we're doing what we have on a budget, no real fancy tools. We're just going at it with what we have, putting our minds together, coming up with a plan, double checking our work, which is extremely important because I did go to St. Louis to get this chassis tubing. I don't want to go back. We've been utilizing all our resources, reaching out to people. Jimmy's built dragsters in the past. It's been a few years. It's all coming back to him. But he's got a good resource of friends that still do this, and we've made a lot of phone calls. It doesn't seem like a lot of work that we're getting done on this, but it's very intricate. We really got to get that front done on here before we can start getting anything back here. So in this video, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that turned out up front there and kind of talk about what we got going on next. We actually did locate where we're going to put the fuel tank. I know that doesn't sound important, but we do need to put a couple cross braces in here, the beams that go across the chassis tubing. And what that does, it holds it into place. So once that's held into place, we got it in the front held into place, in the middle, and this will all be nice, kosher, parallel, even with the world, all that good, so we can get that done in the back, right back in here. So we got to get that welded up. So once we have that all welded up, then we can start adding our uprights or other cross beams and really start making Jumping Jack Flash look like a nostalgia front engine dragster again. So yeah, doesn't seem like a whole lot of work. It's been a lot of videos on this, but it's a very crucial step that we have to get done. That is a must before we start working on anything else. Very intricate. I'm very, very glad the way it turned out. It turned out very well. I like it. I dig it. It's looking like a dragster. It's really getting me motivated to really get a whole lot more done. Anyway, guys, I'm rambling. Jimmy's back out here. He just finished breakfast. We got a whole bunch of work to do, but what I'm going to do real quick, guys, I'm going to show you how that turned out and what our next steps are. See you in a few. All right, so here's how it turned out. Obviously, if you see here, it's still tacked into place. We still got to do the final welding on that. But the 2-into-1 actually turned out pretty well. This is extremely solid on here. Jimmy's gone ahead and welded that around. We still got to do the bottom, but we're going to wait to do that because we're going to have to flip this car over at one point. Got to clean up some welds, but the chassis tubing itself is staying parallel here to the actual axle mount. And what we ended up doing was, on the end of it, instead of just cutting it and flattening it, we went ahead and basically made this and rounded it down. Welded it in there. Like I said, we're going to clean all that up, but it's solid. It's extremely solid. So yeah, that's how that turned out. And what's going to really make this solid, because especially on the bottom, that is TIG welded all the way to this. This is TIG welded here. But across this chassis beam, you see all the way pretty much back to about that point right there. That's all going to be TIG welded into place on each side, same with the other side. Turned out really well. A lot of work. Like I said, it was intricate. We did the best we could. And you know what? Our plan worked. No mistakes. Don't have to go to St. Louis to pick up more tubing. So that's a win-win. So what do we got going on now? Well, it's not sitting here now, but you can see where those wooden blocks are. So what we're doing is that's actually where our fuel tank's going to fit. It's actually a vintage moon piece. I'm staying with the nostalgia theme. So what we're going to do next is, you see a pipe clamp here. We're going to start holding stuff into place here, and we're going to start putting a couple of the cross beams in here, which is going to hold all this together and hold it straight. So then we can go back in the back on those tubes back there where it goes in the remaining piece of the chassis and get stuff welded into place. So it's kind of like this, guys. You start in the front, you tie all that together, you tie some of it in the middle together, tie it back there. That's going to make it all structurally sound, keep it straight, keep it parallel, keep it kosher to the world, and then we can start adding uprights and the other cross beams. With that, Jimmy's done with breakfast. I'm rambling. We got to get to work. See you in a few. All right, I know I said we got to get to work, but I might as well explain this to you. So this is the original vintage moon tank. I did get this with the Dragster. So basically, we have it just mocked up into place. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our crossbars through here and here and here and there, and we're going to tie all that together, and that'll be our mount for our fuel tank. And what that's actually going to do is it's going to hold everything together where it needs to be, right in the middle. So not only do we have it solid back here, but it'll be solid in the middle and held into place, and then we can weld back there. just wanted to show you that real quick on how that's going to look and why we're doing that. One kind of cool thing is I had a bunch of stuff that we cut off this car when I got it, and we're repurposing it. Like I said, we're on a budget. So some of the tubing that's going to be used for the bolt holes in here, because it's going to be bolted into place, is actually the gas part of the gas pedal. It's perfect size. You know what? Repurpose it, recycle it. That's what hot rodding's about. See you in a few. All right, what you saw Jimmy making there was some of the cross beams for the chassis. If you see that they're radiused on each end, so that's going to sit in between there. Made 2 of them. They're not finished yet, but you get the gist of what he's doing. So what's going to happen is these are going to sit in here on the bottom like this, and our fuel tank will mount to that. So yeah, this is going to tie all this together up front, up here, make it rigid, so we can get stuff welded back in place in the back. Once we get this in and get that back there welded into place, it's going to be pretty solid, and we can start putting uprights in.
I'm going to finish. I'm going to go grind the boogers off the weld, turn around, cut this, then weld this side, grind the boogers off, run a reamer through it, then weld them in place.
Yeah, and it's kind of
with a little luck, they'll actually fit the legs on a fuel tank.
Yeah, and what's kind of funny about it is we're repurposing everything we can from the old Dragster. Like I said, these were actually pieces of pipe that were from this absolutely redneck gas pedal they had on there. So yeah, we cut it up. We're using it. Like I said, we're on a budget. We're working with what we've got the best we can. But yeah, that's going to do that. So we're going to have those in there once Jimmy finishes them up. Get those in place, be our fuel tank mount. It'll make this all rigid, that's all rigid, and we can get back there and make that rigid. Then from there, guys, it's cross beams and uprights. See you in a few. right, well, check this out, guys. So what you saw us do there is we made our bottom cross braces for the chassis, and we welded in tubes there. Jimmy cleaned everything up, ground it down. So those aren't just holes drilled in these tubes. There's actually pieces of steel in there for that. But as you can see, we got those welded in place. Everything's right with the world. Everything's square. They're level. The fuel tank actually fits perfectly on there. Not too shabby. So yeah, now that we have this all up here, nice and solid, right with the world. Right there, it's nice and solid and right with the world. Come back to the chassis here. What you saw Jimmy just do is he tacked the bottoms in place. So the lower chassis tubing is now tacked into place to the existing chassis that we've been working on. So now what we got to start doing is putting in more cross pieces here into the chassis to tie all that together, and we can start doing some uprights. We're not doing any welding on the top chassis tubes to the existing. We need to make sure everything is right with the world when we put everything in there to make sure it's all square, level, kosher, good to go. Jimmy's on the phone right now talking to one of his chassis buddies that still builds nostalgia top fuel cars, and we got some planning to do. Got to get our heads together. Tell you what, go though, guys, I'm very happy with the progress we got going on so far. But as you can see here, when we're talking about taper, yeah, it does have taper. It drops off total of a little bit more than 12 inches. Not too shabby, love it. See, got a level there. Everything's still staying level. We've been going through and checking everything when we weld to make sure nothing moves. So far, guys, it's been so, lost for words. So far, so good. Fingers crossed it continues that way. A lot of rechecking our work, a lot of brainstorming. It's the measure 10,000 times, cut once, grind once, weld once. Seen a few. All right, what we're working on right now, you can hear Jimmy cutting in the background. I went ahead and measured the transmission along with our coupler in the back here of actually where it's going to sit. Like I said, the reason before there's the spacing in there is so if you need to take stuff out, you can just slide that out and everything will lift up. You won't have to fight it. So we know where the back of our transmission is going to sit and couple to the engine, which is right here on this line. And we got it squared up. So we're actually working on putting these uprights in now. The reason we're doing that is we have this tacked in place. We have it tacked in place back here. Obviously you saw what Jimmy and I did was we got everything in place up front there for the fuel tank, which holds that all into place. We put a top bar up here, which holds the top bars in place, and obviously it's solid back there. So what we're doing now is going back to the back of the chassis, and we are going to put these uprights in here. And what that's going to do, it's going to hold this together here and over there, and it's going to set everything here. So it's going to make it structural. So when we start adding uprights, I can get a better picture view of this. So when we put this one in, which Jimmy's eyeballing right now, we put it in here, connects this to here. It's obviously connected back here. We can start placing the rest of our uprights in here. That's going to be a big piece of it, and we're still going to have to put our cross beams in. I did order a chunk of aluminum to make our motor plate. We're going to have to address that soon. But as you see, guys, it's really starting to come along pretty well. Like I said, we started off back there, went to here, came back here, going here, and then from there. It's kind of a game of just, I'm just going to call it structural cat and mouse. But as you see, guys, it's really starting to come along. Jimmy and I are accomplishing a lot today. Still got a lot more to do, but you know what? Sun's shining, we're making hay. See you in a few. All right, real quick. The reason why this is still tack welded is because we're not going to do the final welding on that until we get the uprights in. Once we get those uprights in, that is actually going to be completely solid through here. So when we go to final weld this through here, it's not going to move. It's not going to want to shrink. It's not going to pop. It is chromoly tubing, pretty strong stuff. It does like to bend. It actually has really good memory to it. But like I said, we want to get the uprights in through here to make it solid, make it rigid, make it right with the world. And then we can go in and finish the welding on that on the inside and outside. It's time for us to get back to work. See you in a few. Well, we're going to call it a wrap for this video. I'm on the other side of the shop cutting some 7/8 chromoly tubing for more uprights. Jimmy and I, at the end of that video, we're doing a whole lot of planning. However, for this video, I'm going to call it done. The whole point of the last few videos was getting that clamshell cut done, the axle mount put in place, making that structurally sound. Yeah, threw in some bonus material, putting in the crucial uprights in the back. That's going to make everything tied together. So when we're doing the rest of it, it's straight and it's true. Put in a couple cross beams in the front, made that all solid up there, and that was also allowed us to put a spot for the fuel tank. Now, tell you what, guys, I'm really tired, need to get home, need to get cleaned up, but in the next few videos, Jimmy and I, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding more of the uprights, more of the cross beams, and we're going to get into explaining why those matter, where we're putting them, and what that's going to do for the drag car. Tell you what, guys, I'm really tired. I got some tubing to cut. Jimmy's over there working. What I'm going to go ahead and do is get cleaned up, help him for a few, and get home. With that, we'll see you in the next one. Later.